Well, when we first started Blue Rock, the idea was to create a European style of estate, and that is to be everything self-contained. It would give us an opportunity to have complete control over everything that we do. So we grow the grapes, we have our own crews, so we don't hire any outside labor, which allows us to take a vine by vine approach because we really know the vineyard. We make the wine here. We have total control over everything. Estate to me means not just the grape growing, but it's the bigger picture, is that we have sheep, we have chickens, we have peacocks, we have all kinds of wildlife here. We have wild pigs, we have wild turkeys, we have fish. We are growing our own gardens, we make our own compost. To me, that's what estate really means, is that it's this total connection and integration with this one wonderful 100-acre property every year.
The advantages and disadvantages of making wine from an estate. The disadvantage is you don't have many weapons to play with to set out and make a great wine. You know, in some respects, that's an easy way to approach it, is just to go out and buy as many different vineyards as you can, sit back, you got 15 blocks and make your blend. The problem with that is every year that wine's going to taste the same. It's going to be very predictable. You're going to have that same, you got the same 15 blocks and you just choose, and every year it's going to be supple and sweet, supple and sweet, supple and sweet. But I think if you look at Bordeaux varietals, it is possible to have one vineyard enhance that complexity by having different Bordeaux varietals in it. So Kenny's got Malbec, Merlot and Cabernet Franc, for instance, grown in amongst his Bordeaux, in amongst the Cabernet. So we can make a very complex wine from one site and have it be really true and representative not only of the Alexandra Valley and Kenny's Vineyard Blue Rock, but also a true representative of each vintage. And I think that that is what's really unique and important in terms of estate properties.
The good part about making an estate wine is that, number one, we have a vineyard that has very unique aromas and flavors. And when you taste Blue Rock, you know that you're tasting Blue Rock. It can't come from anywhere else. So there's a real connection, there's a real sense of place that you don't get from a blended wine. When a winery blends wine, what they're trying to achieve is a sameness from year to year. And an estate winery, on the other hand, is what we're trying to do, is to express the vineyard in that particular vintage. So you're going to have a commonality in an estate wine, but it's not going to be the same from year to year. We're not producing Coca-Cola. It's much more interesting because each vintage is like a child. Each one has a unique personality, and you may like one more than the other, but they all have a certain charm. So the reason that we stick with estate wines, and the reason for you to buy an estate wine, is because simply it's much more interesting.
It's not just about the property, it's also about the person, because it's the people and the passion of the person that have to come into play, and the commitment to making great wines from estate properties. Because when you're dealing with an estate, you've got a limited resource, and you really got to have that person behind it to support what you want to do, create the quality in the vineyard, and then have the courage to follow through all the way for the extra 2 years in barrel and then extra year in bottle. So it's not just a matter of buying a property, throwing money at it and hoping it's going to work. The personality of the person really has to shine through on the property and in the wine as well.
I've always wanted to do something without compromise. By having an estate vineyard, we have a chance to do the best that we can possibly do without any compromise. And that's what it takes to make a wine like Blue Rock.